and welcome to Liverpool Online Music. This is Mid-Morning Music, your weekly music podcast with me, Phil Beale. And we've got a very special guest, the wonderful singer-songwriter, Liverpool local community artist, vocal coach, lecturer. There are so many strings to this lady's bow that it's going to be a fantastic conversation. So please introduce and welcome the fabulous Hayli Kincade.
Woo-hoo! That was such a lovely introduction. Could you just say that again?
I know. No chance.
Carry on. That was lovely, thank you.
Truly welcome. Great to see you.
You too.
And the first time I saw you, I was lucky to be at the Hilton at the Love for Music Awards a few months ago, and saw you perform there and was absolutely blown away. And it was a very emotionally charged evening, so it's an absolute pleasure to have you here to talk to you and talk about you, or find out more about your background and stuff like that. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And let's talk first of all a little about your background, if we can, about how music played a role in say back in your childhood. How did you first start connecting with music?
Okay, so there was always music on in the house.
Right.
My dad was a singer, and he came here in the late 80s and was working in the Methodist Centre in Toxteth, and I think he was mentoring someone who didn't have the confidence to go out and gig on his own. So he went, I'll go with you. So I used to remember them like rehearsing in my bedroom, because I had the biggest bedroom. So they'd set up there and rehearse, or they'd be dancing in the kitchen. So I was always around music. Do you know what? I'll send you the video evidence of that.
Fantastic. That'd be great.
There. Yeah. And then I remember he was away one weekend, but his PA system was still set up. And I started singing Whitney Houston.
Oh, did you?
It was, I think it was the song from The Preacher's Wife, I Believe in You and Me. And my mum heard me singing it, and she came in and, was that you? And I was like, yeah. Wow. And she went, okay.
So you were how old at that point?
I was 9 at that
9 years old.
Yeah, 9 years old. So he came home, and she was like, you need to hear Hayli sing Whitney Houston.
Oh, my
and he went, go on then. So I sang... And I remember he went, ching, ching. It makes some money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so from then, I remember I started getting lessons. I already played piano from about age 7.
Really?
Classical piano.
Yeah. So you're taking lessons,
Yeah. So I was already doing piano. And then from then, I started classical singing.
Right.
And then I had various different teachers over the years.
Classical singing as in classical opera?
Yes.
Really?
Well, it was more, classical to musical theatre style.
Yeah.
So it was really good, and I say this to my students, it was really good to get the foundations for that, in terms of the technique. So that was really like a valuable time for me.
Yeah.
And then, I just do like community gigs and stuff and school productions. And then when I was like 14, 15, that's when I went to the Orange Music Experience, which was with Dove Ross Williams. And that was at the Lighthouse in Anfield. Again, Dad was the one that took me along. And then they kind of decided to partner up and create Liverpool WAC, which is Liverpool Weekends Arts College. So the first year of that, I was like a student, and then I started to shadow Safina from Sense of Sound. She was the vocal coach at that time. So they were like, you could be doing this,
Amazing, yeah.
So I was shadowing her, taking notes. And then the second year they set up Junior WAC. So they were like, let Hayli work with the babies. So I started teaching the young ones, which I know we mentioned Sarah Jones before. Yeah, she was only like 7 years old when I started working with her. So, I started teaching alongside doing my degree, which was in creative and performing arts.
Right,
so I did a BA at Hope.
Right.
Which was funny because WAC was at Hope at that time as well. So I'd be there like basically every day of my life for a few years. And then after that, they gave me a scholarship to do a master's in creative practice. And that's where I like specialised in the voice and the identity of the voice.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, what a journey.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's actually also where I met my band members. So I do like corporate gigs and weddings.
Yeah, what's the name of your band again?
Kikozimusic.co.uk.
Yeah, okay, that's it. Get it out there.
Yeah, any weddings, bar mitzvahs, funerals, whatever. But yeah, so we got put together on a music project and played a couple of songs. And we were like, this sounds really good. Cool. So we've continued, and yeah, we do.
Yeah, you said that's been going on for about 14, 15 years, something. That's amazing.
Can't get rid of them.
So what was Paul's thing? He was in playing bands, was he? You said he was a singer?
Yeah, so no, it was more like backing track type.
Was it?
Pubs, clubs.
Right, okay.
But he was just like a naturally gifted singer and performer, but hadn't done the training. So over the years, he was damaging his vocal folds, and to the point where he had to have fat injected from his stomach into his vocal folds at one time.
Me, right, okay.
So he had to stop singing, and I think that's why he was so adamant for me to have the proper technical training so that I didn't damage my instrument the way he did. Yeah, he was just like a proper showman.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
And he used to put me on the spot. So again, like how I started with the teaching side of what I do, he'd do workshops and I'd be his little assistant.
Right.
And then he'd go, Hayli, Alicia Keys. And then I'd be like, oh, he's put me on the spot again. And I'd have to just sing. And he'd always say, why do you think I'm doing that though?
Yeah.
And now I do the same to my students. It's about like, you know, building your confidence and being able to switch that on.
Absolutely.
So at the time I hated him for it, but now I understand. It's kind of made me the performer I am today.
Fantastic, yeah. So in terms of creativity, we talked beforehand, and you mentioned the fact that you write your own material. So when did you start crossing that bridge?
Do you know what? I've probably been writing songs since the age of 14, Alicia Keys time. I remember listening to her first album, Keys in A Minor, and I was like, when I'm older, I want to be like her. Yeah. And I was already doing the classical piano.
Yeah.
I remember actually I did a show, I think I must have been 14. I did a show in Dad's school, Savio in Bootle, and it went terribly. I had a chest infection and I couldn't remember my chords and my voice was breaking, and I got off stage and I was like, I never want to perform again.
Yeah.
And then went into school on the Monday and a teacher said to me, I believe you performed amazing last week doing Alicia Keys. Will you do it in our school? I think it was School Stars in Their Eyes. And I was like, really? But anyway, I went on and I won it. And I was doing this big Alicia Keys medley that I'd composed, and I had the braids and everything. And I think it was one of those moments, you know, where they say, like, when you have a car crash, you need to get back in the car.
Or fall off the horse or whatever
yeah,
it is. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. That's right.
So I feel like because it was literally the next week that I had to get back on that stage,
right.
I just kind of had to get over it.
Right.
And yeah, so... yeah, Alicia Keys was probably a big influence in terms of my songwriting, and that's when I started to just like mess around at the piano. And to be honest, although I haven't recorded my original stuff to speak,
yet.
I bet yet it's gonna come. But I feel like some of my like best songs were written like 10 years ago.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So I might be pulling out some of those songs.
Why not?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But even so, you were considering it at the age of about 14, were you saying, when Alicia Keys' album came out?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Just that kind of soul, Motown, jazz.
Sure.
R&B, neo-soul vibe now.
Autobiographical?
Yes. Do you know what? I was talking about this the other day. I used to like write songs about like overcoming heartbreak and stuff. And I remember performing original stuff at a... Do you know what? It was at that Clear Minds event, remember, in Blackburn House. And I remember joking, saying, you probably all think I'm a man-hater or I've been through a really bad breakup, but I haven't. I've just written this song. Little did I know that 10 years down the line, it was going to match
That's
exactly
phenomenal.
how I felt.
That is
but
phenomenal.
they're all like really empowering songs about how to overcome the stages of heartbreak or grief.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Wow.
Another thing is that when I have gone through my heartbreak and grief, I have rejected singing and writing.
Okay.
And everyone would say, oh, I bet you're going to be like Adele and you're going to create this hit album now. Just write it all down, write it all down. And I was just like, can't go to that piano.
Can't relive that now. Yeah.
And like even singing and doing the gigs, even with the band, I'd lost the pleasure.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I sorry, turn that off. I'd lost the pleasure for it, and I think I ended up going to Broad Green Hospital to the voice clinic because I thought I had an issue, like a medical issue with my
issue,
with my throat. I'd cancelled about 6 months worth of gigs, and I was like,
wow.
I've got nodules or pops or something's going on.
Sure.
So I go, they put the camera down.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing wrong. Everything looks really healthy. So then they get talking to me about what's going on in your life. And I'd just come out of a long-term relationship with the father of my child.
Right.
And my throat chakra was like,
oh, how interesting you mentioned that word. Yeah, yeah.
So,
I completely relate to that.
Yeah, I was having physical pain from singing, and it's because all the nerves, your emotions are all connected to your voice and your throat.
Probably suppressing your own self-expression. And causing your own.
Yeah, definitely.
Your own symptoms.
So I had to literally do CBT. I wasn't being honest with how I really felt.
Okay.
So I had to write down my feelings and start journaling and like speak openly to people, directly and indirectly.
Wow.
And it worked.
Amazing. How long ago did that happen?
That was 5 years ago.
5 years ago, right.
So it was going on, 4 to 5 years ago that was going on.
Yeah. Wow. Again, what an amazing story.
But it's quite powerful because when I'm working with my students, obviously you get close, when you're seeing someone on a week to week, and singing is very vulnerable and exposing, and all things come out in the sessions. But sometimes now when their voices aren't working as well and they don't know why, I quite often ask, is there something going on? And 9 times out of 10, yes. Yeah. So I'm able to teach what I've learned through going through that experience. That's
amazing. Do you relate the spiritual back to them at all? Because you touched on the spiritual there.
Yes.
Obviously very briefly. And so again, that's part of your coaching process. Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic.
Again, I've had to learn that through experiencing.
Sure.
And experimenting with different ways of overcoming those challenges.
Amazing. So,
and I think that's, being a vocal coach, that's what it's all about. And when I did my MA, I talked about how we're all constructed differently in terms of our instruments, and what works for me might not work for the next person.
Sure.
And, so I don't use just one method of teaching or one method of singing. I like to cherry pick and find out what works for me or each individual.
Yeah.
And the same applies with like the spiritual element as well. Yeah. And it depends on your circumstances at that time.
Yes, of course. Yeah. That's fantastic. But you do an awful lot of work in the community as well, as I understand, don't you? Can you tell us more about where that comes from? Because your dad was involved with it from the start.
Yeah.
So you'd start gigging as well at his events and things, would you?
So we put on events across the different communities. And then I'm just trying to think. So we did school work. Then, as I said, we were doing Liverpool WAC, which was for young people, and it was making the arts accessible, basically.
Fantastic.
We got funding for that, and everyone was welcome. It was no audition process.
Wow,
you come and you have fun and you learn whilst doing it. What else did we do? I worked for a company called Activate Arts, which was a really valuable period in time because I did a lot of training with them. That was working with kids with disabilities.
Right, yeah.
Also working with NEETs, all different constituency groups. So I'd go, and because my degree was in singing, dance and drama, I'd kind of do all of it.
Amazing.
So that was a fun time.
What was Mallet?
Mallet was motivated and loving it. So one of my dad's closest friends, Andy Griffith, he's the founder of that and director, and Dad did a lot of work with them. And from that, Mallet in the Community was born.
Right.
And that's Andy's daughter, Anna, and her friend Meg. They went to university together. And that's now changed names recently, and I've become the partner. Because Dad was one of the directors.
Sure.
So I am now officially going to be bringing in the music element and helping with the events, because they use drama as a tool. It's dramatic recovery. So they use drama as a tool to tackle mental health, and they're doing absolutely amazing work in the city, yeah.
Wow, that's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, they actually did something for male mental health, where they... while Dad was alive, he discussed his own mental health, and other men in the city were interviewed, and they did a piece of verbatim theatre. So originally it was theatre, and then it got made into a film. And little did I know that my best friend's brother was playing my dad.
Wow.
He passed away before it actually aired.
Right, okay.
But I went to that, went to view that at the, what's it called? Is it called the Arts? Next door to the Arts Club. Hope Street Theatre.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So that was so...
Was that like a feature-length production, was it?
Yeah.
Wow, gosh.
So they did, during COVID times, they did the theatre side of it.
Right.
And then they aired it.
Yeah.
Later
So what's
on.
Mallet known as now then? What's it called now?
So Mallet's still there, so that's Motivated and Loving It.
Yeah.
And then Mallet in the Community has now become Dramatic Recovery.
Dramatic Recovery, sorry, okay, I lost the thread.
But my best friend's just become the partner of diversity and inclusion across all the museums.
Wow.
Liverpool museums. So we're going to get the film shown in Men's Mental Health Awareness Week.
I'd love to see that film.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah. And if you want to be involved, let me know.
Absolutely amazing. Wow. So, there is so much here that you are currently involved in. What's the majority of what you're doing? Is it mainly your coaching and your lecturing? Is that what you say?
Yes.
Okay, right. And that's at LIPA. You're doing lecturing at LIPA, which is amazing.
Yeah. So that happened. I've been there about 5-6 years now.
How did that gig come about? That's amazing.
It's not what you know it to, you know.
You don't know Paul, do you?
Maybe. But yeah, that's been a great experience. So that is my main bread and butter. I'm there Tuesday to Friday on the popular music course, and I do one-to-one vocal coaching and group sessions covering vocal repertoire. So obviously it's great because I've got the two elements. I've got the community, and then I've got these really hungry, talented artists that a lot of them effectively just want to make it. So it's about getting them industry ready and just looking at everything. So the first couple of years, it's vocal technique. That's the module that I teach on.
Right.
So it's about getting them singing in a healthy method, learning the tools to adapt to musical styles and genres. And then in the third year, it's the performer module. So it's about putting that into your own music project. So we want them gigging as regularly as possible, recording, releasing if they want to. And by the end of that year, their final exam is a 40-minute gig at the Paul McCartney Auditorium.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they do like a festival called Tube Extra. So it's all geared towards...
Is it right that he sometimes attends those, does he?
Yeah, I
He's been known
believe
to
so.
attend, I
Not
think,
while
hasn't he?
I've been there, but what happens is certain students are selected at the end of the year,
Right.
to do a masterclass with him, and he does like a masterclass in songwriting.
Wow, amazing.
I haven't met him yet, but
Have you not? No. I'm sure it'll happen.
yeah,
I'm
it'll
sure
happen
it'll
soon.
happen. Yeah. So you've also mentioned choir work, and that's going back out to the community, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And is it more in the vein of a gospel sort of thing? Is it? Yeah?
It is now, yeah. So
What? Explain to us a bit about that. I'm
it's
interested in
my
that.
baby.
Oh wow!
I love harmonies.
Yeah.
I absolutely love harmonies, and I always have, and I've always loved gospel music as well. But I actually started off. What was my first choir? I think it was Raucous Caucus.
Right.
Raucous Caucus Recovery Chorus was a recovery choir. Great name.
Did you think that up?
I didn't think of the name. So they were a recovery choir for people recovering from alcohol, drugs, food addiction, gambling. Really, really rewarding work. From that, I then was doing Big Love Sister Choir, which was working with vulnerable women.
Right. Okay.
Then I had Halewood Community Choir, and then the last choir I took on, which is now the only choir that I work with, is Wavertree Community Gospel Choir.
Right. And you're the choir master?
Yes.
Wow, so you're setting the repertoire?
Yes.
And you're doing the arrangements?
Yeah.
And you're
which
doing,
I love.
And obviously the conducting?
Yeah.
And the presenting?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're all
When's your next
amazed
gig?
because I just like... I hear it all. Like, my brain's always like, that harmony's off, you need to do this. I don't know. And I close my eyes and they're like, how do you know?
That's incredible.
Well, that was another thing. I remember my dad was singing and I started harmonising and he went, who taught you that? And I was like, no one.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
No one taught me, it just came
Yeah.
out. So I think when
Yeah.
you're immersed in that music and that style,
That's
sometimes...
right, isn't it? Yeah. I think it depends what you're listening to as well.
Yeah.
I started out as a kid listening to the Beatles and... They were 3-part harmony all the way through.
Yeah.
And, it somehow just rubs off on you, I think, doesn't it?
You just end up harmonising to everything. It's really
that's
annoying.
Right.
My mum always says to me, you're singing it wrong, you're singing it wrong. I'm like, I'm not, mother. I'm singing a harmony. But yeah, the choir work is unbelievable because it's still that community element and everyone is welcome. And although, it's gospel music, I say it's multi-faith.
Right.
Multi-generational, multicultural,
Yeah.
Everyone is welcome. Even if you don't have a faith, come along because I do popular music or like popular uplifting music, like Something Inside So Strong.
Of course, yeah.
Higher and Higher,
Fantastic.
Higher Love, and then like the more traditional gospel songs as well. But yeah, we just have such a good time, and no matter what we're going through, we leave that room uplifted
Absolutely.
and on a high.
Brilliant.
I remember them talking at one of the mental health awareness events for dramatic recovery, and one particular guy was talking about how it helps his mental health, and then I just added at the end because he was showing gratitude towards me, and I was like, it's a two-way thing. There's been times where I've been on the floor going through all sorts, and sometimes I'm thinking I can't do this. But you walk into that room and go, right, okay, everyone, let's sing some scales, give me some lip trills. And then before you know it, I'm elevated again. So I always thank my students and my choirs, and they become an extended family member.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, just coming back to the Hilton, where, as I said earlier, I first met you, or didn't meet you, first saw you perform, and you pulled out an amazing gospel track, one of my favourite tracks of all time, from Candy Sutton, and that was just one heck of a performance. Of You Got the Love.
Do you know what? I'm so glad you said that because I was shaking.
Oh,
I was so emotional because I had absolutely no idea that I was going to get an award. I thought I was presenting the Paul Kincade award to Kof.
Sure.
And then Miguel my dear friend, Miguel, put me on the spot and then said, and are you going to sing? So I was like, right the way through, wanted to cry. So I'm so glad that you enjoyed it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it was just amazing. A wonderful experience to be part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the audience, that's right. So that comes back to his award at the Love for Music event that was so wonderful. Will be repeated again soon. I think they're going to do another one, aren't they? Which is going to be great.
Yeah.
But also about something else that you're working on now in his name, which is the foundation. Which is that now created and working, or is something you're coming up to creating?
It's something that I am coming up to. And it's been so hard to get to this point where I feel ready.
Yeah.
Literally, within weeks after he passed away, I had floods of people obviously messaging and tributes, and it was all over the news, and lovely, lovely stuff. But a lot of people saying, if there's a foundation, I want to be involved. If there's an event in his name, I want to be involved.
Wow.
He did a lot of work with Liverpool MPAC.
Okay.
Play, Merseyside Play Action.
Yeah.
And they do like a summer event in the park, in Prince's Park. Well, a few of the parks actually. So in the summer, because I'd always do that event with my dad by my side, they said, would you be up for doing something? So I took it upon myself to call it the Paul Kincade Performance and Play. So we had our own stage, and normally we'd have just like members of the community coming up, a lot of the kids that want to get up and grab the mic. But I also invited artists that Dad had worked with over the years to come and perform in his memory. Yeah. And so many people, I had to turn people away in the end. So many people came, and from just like all areas of Liverpool, because he was in Toxteth and he was in Sefton, Bootle, Stocky Village. You've got the Glass Skies, haven't you? Like, that was Stocky Village, a music project that we did called Encore. So it was just great. Yeah, it was great. And I felt like we need to do more of this. And he was just really big on working with young people. Right. Helping to build confidence. Sure. Using any form of art, really. And he always did the psyche part, didn't he? He was always, you know, he was very emotionally intelligent. Right. And he said, you can do all the technical stuff and sing and hit all the notes, but if you don't know how to deal with what's going on inside and deal with your emotions, you're not going to go anywhere. You know, to have that solid foundation. So where did he get that stuff from? Was that instinctive? He hadn't had any training in that, maybe? Or? He had done a lot of training, but I do think, you know, he lived on the streets for a couple of years. Oh my God, really? Yeah. So he had times when he was in care. He had times when there was like domestic violence in the house. Wow. Yeah. He had times on the street, but he just always, from what I've heard, always just had that good heart and moral. So I think being able to overcome a lot of his challenges and his demons along the way taught him those lessons. Yeah, and he was a spiritual man as well. Right, yeah, absolutely. And behind every great man, there's always a great... my mum. I think my mum, yeah, she always talks about how it was like a mutual healing process when they met. They actually met through church as well. And working with the youth in London. Oh, wow. Yeah. In London? So they were both Londoners. Oh, no way. I didn't realise that. Okay. So Dad came after the Toxteth riots to work did he? Right, in the community. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He was also seconded to work after the Hillsborough. He was doing counselling with some of the people that were affected by that. And my mum was saying, because there's been a few shows on about it recently, hasn't there? Right, yeah. And she was watching it and she said... Yeah, there have been dramatisations and all sorts of things, haven't there? That's right, that's right. She said he must have taken on so much and he never ever spoke about it. Obviously, it's confidential. But... Who counsels the counsellor? It's crucial. He'd had training in counselling and well-being and mentoring, but I think a lot of it was learning.
Complete detachment is impossible, isn't it? If you do the job, you're going to absorb that stuff, aren't you?
Yeah.
To a greater or lesser degree.
And to be honest with you, he passed away at the beginning of 2021. So we'd had COVID, and I think not having that sense of purpose and not being able to reach out and help people, like
because of the isolation aspect of it.
The isolation, we feel like he kind of gave up because he was in a lot of pain with his hips. You see, he needed 2 hip replacements.
Right.
He used to literally crawl up the stairs because he was in so much pain.
Wow.
He actually died of a diabetic coma in the end, but I feel like he had kind of given up. And as I say, we lost my grandma the year before, literally to that week. So I think coupled with just being isolated and not having that sense of purpose and helping others, and that would have been the case for a lot of people, I think, at that time.
Absolutely. So the purpose of the foundation and in his name and his memory, how just describe to me, please, a little bit more about that and what your ambition is for it.
That's a really good question. As I say, there's so many people from different walks of life who want to be a part of it. I definitely want an annual event. Yeah. Because, as I say, there's so many different artists in this city that have been touched by Dad. So definitely an annual, like, memorial type thing.
Fabulous.
But like ongoing community work.
Right.
So, like I said, with where we kind of had the funding to give back to the community, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Even if it's like, I don't know, projects, like different projects in different areas of Liverpool. Do you know what Savio? Do you know Savio High School?
I don't know it now. I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm an out of towner myself. Sorry.
But they have just, so there was money raised. So after Dad passed away, James Loughlin put on a gig, like a Facebook Live gig.
Right.
And Anton as well. They both came together and did like a fundraiser. And I think £1,600 was raised, and Savio have created a peace garden.
Oh,
so it's a school
gorgeous.
in Bootle.
Right.
And they've created the Paul Kincade Peace Garden where people can go and reflect or have a time out. So, yeah, just...
That's lovely.
I'm not being very specific with what the foundation is because, as I say, I haven't felt ready till now to kind of push forward with it. But I just know that I've got a lot of support in this city to kind of carry on his legacy. People are doing it anyway, but me more than anyone. Like,
but you're doing it anyway with the work you do. You know, you're carrying on his message, aren't you? Either consciously or subconsciously with the work that you're doing with your students and with the community and recovering people, and it's just a wonderful thing.
It's bittersweet because he was always by my side.
Sure.
And you know, like we did so much together. We lived together. But yeah, now he's not here. It's still like a lot of I'm still getting invited to do the same events, but without him there. But I'm just trying to remember that he is there, really, and everything that I do, like, comes from him.
That's your personal belief system, and that's mine too. I know for sure that the ones that have gone before me are still around me and helping me and guiding me, and I'm really happy to hear that you feel the same way. Yeah. That's fantastic. You get little messages, don't you? You get little signs every now and again.
Oh my gosh. I won't even go into that.
I'm sorry.
I won't even go into it, but I'm telling you now, if I didn't believe before, I certainly do now.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's
wonderful.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, it's just been an amazing conversation, an amazing story. I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything else that I wanted to ask you about. Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, you mentioned the sickle cell thing. That was again from a close friend of yours. Just tell us a little bit more about that, please, Hayli.
Yeah, so 2021 was the worst year ever. Started off with obviously losing Dad. Yeah. And then another family member 2 weeks to the day. And then in the June, we lost one of my close friends, Naomi Loy. Now, Naomi is my best friend's sister. she suffered with sickle cell
Yeah.
her whole life, which is, you know, an awful blood disease
Yeah.
that commonly affects Afro-Caribbean.
Yeah.
Can affect anyone, but
It's genetic. Is that a genetic?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She suffered terribly with it. I was only physically with her a few months before she passed away, so it was her birthday actually. So in the end of December, I was actually witness to like what happened to her when she was having what they call the sickle cell crisis.
Right.
The pain.
Wow.
Just seemed so unimaginable. She said it was like having a hammer batter every joint in your body, like going through your body. So she had a specialist at the Royal who looked after her and knew how to treat her, and she needed morphine a lot of the time. We were actually at the lakes when it happened, and we had to make the decision as to whether to take her to the nearest hospital or do that drive with her in immense pain, but knowing that she would get the proper, you know, care that she needed.
Yeah.
And we made the decision to drive back to the Royal, and, you know, she was okay. And then, as I say, in June, actually last week, the 6th of June, she had a heart attack, and it was all quite sudden. So
that's a sort of a blessing anyway, isn't it? At least it was sudden at the end. Yeah. Hard for everybody else around obviously, but wow. Okay.
So my best friend was holding my hand through, you know, losing my dad, and then we just shared this moment on the floor over Naomi, and we've just kind of throughout the year been trying to hold each other up. And Rebecca is very much a person that, like, she's active. She wants to get things done. She wants to make a difference. If she says she's going to do something, she's going to do it.
Fabulous.
And she would say to me, right, I've decided I want to do a sickle cell event, a fundraiser.
Yeah.
And do you want to be involved? Yeah. Before I knew it, I was CC'd into an email. Things are going off. We've got a date planned and everything. So on Naomi's birthday in December, we did Winterfest, and that was in collaboration with Blackfest,
right?
Who were a black organisation in Liverpool, and we work a lot with the choir's done a lot of work with them. And then the day before the Love for Music Awards, we had an amazing jazz night at Oh Me Oh My.
Wow.
Really, really classy event where we had the Halcyon Syncopators, which was a big band.
Is it? Right.
Yeah,
like
big band.
Kind of swing kind of jazz, yeah. Wow, amazing, yeah.
And I performed.
Fantastic,
Becky performed, Tyrone Lewis, you know Tyrone Lewis, great singer, and Tony Alphonse, who's the male singer from my band.
Right.
So we all performed, and then the choir performed as well, and we had raffles. And I don't even know what the end. What was it? About $2,000, I feel like.
Fantastic.
We've raised a lot of money, and if we were to put it together, I think it's near $3-4 grand that we've raised just doing those two events. So together.
That's all for sickle cell anemia research.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
So we're going to continue work in Naomi's name and in Dad's name.
Wonderful.
We're going to support each other.
Yeah.
And just raising awareness, raising money, and helping the community.
Fantastic. You're also performing on your own in your own right, aren't you? As do you do a Whitney tribute act? Is that what you do? So that's
something that's just happened.
Fantastic.
Joe Spear contacted me and was like, "Do you do Whitney by any chance?" And I was like, "Yes." So I did one at the Green Rooms, which sadly is no longer.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So a question that I ask all my guests that come on the show is, and it's obviously a very subjective thing. This, but how would you describe the power of music?
Okay, so the first thing that came to my mind then was I'm a Baha'i. Bet you've never heard of that before, have you?
No, a Baha'i.
A Baha'i.
I have heard of that.
Have you?
I have. I don't know why though. I definitely have heard that word. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that your religion?
Yeah, it's a faith. It's one of the newest faiths. Don't ask me how old. But my parents became Baha'is when I was about around 9, I think.
Okay.
But there's a quote that says, "Music is the ladder to one's soul."
Oh, that's deep.
So there we go. That was the first thing that came to mind when you said it. It is
The ladder to your soul.
Yeah.
That's a fabulous
Isn't it?
definition. That is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Another one of my favourite quotes from the faith is, "The earth is one country and mankind its citizens."
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I love the Big Condo tagline.
What's that?
When words fail, music speaks.
Oh, that's nice.
I think that fella there thought that up.
Did you think of that? I'm impressed.
That works, doesn't it?
Don't forget the other tagline. Read the label.
We, the label. That's cracking, isn't it? Oh, absolutely. Big Condo, we, the label.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I love that. But yeah, so the Baha'i faith is
A little bit more about that. I'm interested, genuinely.
Basically, it just believes that we're all equal. It believes that there's one God and that all the different religions came to spread the same message at different eras, different places of the world. This is the most simple way to explain it. And that's why I am a Baha'i, because I'm just all about equality and diversity. And, you know, I do believe that there is a higher, but I don't believe that the only way is through any one path or religion. And if you don't, then you go into hell. Like, that's not what I believe.
I've always believed that entirely. So maybe I am a Baha'i as well by definition or something, or by default. But
they do a 19-day feast. I'll invite you to the next one.
Well, I've just always thought that we're all looking at the same thing through different pairs of glasses. That's all.
Exactly.
We're all looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
Whether it's the universe or it's God or it's Allah, whatever it is.
You want to call it.
We're all talking about the same thing.
And it's the same message.
Fabulous.
It is the same message.
Fabulous, yeah.
So.
Thank you for a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
An enlightening conversation in lots of ways as well.
I hope I didn't go on too much.
Oh, you must be joking. No, not at all. Just good luck with all the things that you're doing, obviously.
Yeah.
And all this work that you're doing in the name of those that you've loved that have gone before you. That's going to be providing its own peace for you, isn't it?
Definitely.
And that's the message, isn't it? That's doing the right thing. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And so, just lastly, your socials are Instagram.
Yeah.
And what are you on Instagram?
So I'm Hayli, spelled Hayli _K _vocalist.
Great. Any others? Are you on Twitter?
I'm not on Twitter. I don't bother with that, but Facebook.
Facebook?
Yeah. And it's Hayli again, Hayli, vocalist Kincade, Kincade.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
So that's where we can find out more about it. That's great. Thank you.
And I'm always posting, what I'm doing, and also some of the artists that I work with, because obviously you found me through Evie's
That's
post.
right, yeah, that's right.
So she did a little shout out for me. I wanted to share what she'd done.
Fabulous.
Tagged you, and here we are today. So
exactly, yeah.
It's all about that, isn't it? Sharing the love.
Definitely, absolutely that. Absolutely that. Thanks ever so much.
Okay.
This has been Mid-Morning Music with me, Phil Beale. We've had the fantastic Hayli Kincade here today, and it's been a real special event for us. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Take care, and we're out.